I'm just here to take a few minutes to tell you about an event that happened over the weekend, sponsored by the Google Developer Group of Interested Technologists. You can find it if you're interested at meetup.com/GDGNYC. I am Barry Burd from Drew University, and my email address is there. So I just want to take a few minutes to tell you what was going on at the DevFest. There were actually 4 tracks, instant app, a mobile web track. Wait a minute, let me go back for a second here. There we go, there were 4 tracks, a cloud track, 3 tracks, a cloud track, an emerging tech track, and a mobile web track, and it was my job to tweet from the mobile web track, so I stuck with that for the whole time. And the mobile web track discussed things like instant apps, Flutter, reCAPTCHA, and Google Translate. How many of you are familiar with the Android ecosystem? Very few. Okay. Frank? Yeah, some others? Okay, so Android is Java, or at least it was exclusively Java up until this summer when it turned to Java and Kotlin. So it's of interest to Java developers. Number of things going on in the Google ecosystem that affect us as Java developers and that affect us all as technology people. One of them is instant apps. Very few of the people in the public, general public, actually have the patience or the knowledge or the skills or the interest to download entire apps to their cell phones. So the idea with instant apps is you can get an app with no effort. The app isn't really installed. The app just appears in pieces on your phone without actually you're taking the time to install it. Basically, an app or a piece of an app is URL addressable. So you enter a URL and somehow a piece of the app instantly appears on your phone. Now what does a piece mean? A piece in this instant app world means up to 4K worth of app. So what that means is that in order for an app to become an instant app, its Java code has to be modularized. And on the next slide I have a picture of a sort of a modularization of an Android app. Modularization of an Android app would mean that you have a collection of code that's called the base feature. And then you have feature 1, which the user may be downloading if the user needs it, and feature 2, if the user may be needing it. And in addition, you have some control apps that say, well, the user needs to download this piece of the app at this time and this other piece of the app at that time. And that's called the instant app module and the app module. And altogether, what the user downloads at one time has to be no larger than 4K. So what it means is that when you're writing this Java program, or now Kotlin program, which becomes an instant app, to make it so easy for the user to download it instantly and get access to pieces of it, it's got to be modularized, divided into pieces like this. I haven't tried doing this. It looks like quite an interesting task to be able to take an app that's potentially many more bytes than just 4K and divide it into individual pieces so that you can download a piece of it at a time and get some kind of useful functionality that you can then use to maybe lead you to get the installable version. But it looks like an interesting idea and an interesting way to go in the mobile world. Exciting part of it is that the code base for the instant apps and for the regular apps that are installable are the same. So what you're doing is taking an installable app and downloading it and dividing it into pieces. I think it's an interesting engineering challenge, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. Another thing that they talked about was Flutter. Flutter is an environment in which you can write apps that run on both Android and on iOS. Most houses that develop Android apps or develop iOS apps have to either spend a lot of time writing their code, rewriting their code for the other platform, or outsourcing that work or just living without it. And Flutter is an answer to that problem. Flutter uses Dart as its native language, which is, and it says boring there because They're proud of the fact that it's not an exciting language, but you also use Kotlin and Java and Objective-C and Swift to write these cross-platform apps. Super hot deployment. You change a little tiny feature in your code, and it instantly shows up on the other part of the screen as part of the app. Another kind of interesting thing that they told us during the DevFest was that this, which you're all probably familiar with, you've seen it, right? Is going away. It's going to be retired. Have you heard about this? This is going to be retired. Why is it going to be retired? Because they did a study and they found out that machines can make sense of this, and that in fact machines are better at interpreting these things now than humans are. I don't know about you, but when I see one of these things, I know that I'm going to try about 3 or 4 times to get it right. Apparently a machine can try about 4,000 times in quicker succession and get it right, and so there's no sense in having these anymore. What we're going to see starting, I guess, in May is only the challenges where it says, I'm not a robot, where you drag your mouse and then click it on the checkbox. Or where you see pictures and it says, click on only the parts of these pictures that have vehicles. Related to that, in terms of machine learning, I wanted to show you something that I think is really cool. I grew up, I was a teenager in the 60s. They said machine learning, artificial intelligence was coming in 3 years, 4 years. Well, now let's make it 5 years. No, now let's make it 10. Now let's make, okay. It's now almost 2018, and look at what we've got. This is a book. I'm not trying to plug my book. I just happen to have a translation of my book into Russian. And this is an image of my cell phone. So this is what Google Translate can do with this. This is a video that I made earlier today. So this is a picture of my book translated into Russian. It's on the camera app of my cell phone. So you just see there's some English there, there's some Russian. The title is partly in Russian. It says Java for teapots. I'm moving now to the Google Translate app. If you've seen this before, you won't be excited, but I never saw this before the conference and I was very excited about it. I'm turning on the Google Translate app. Look what the Google Translate app is doing with this in real time. It's translating it, and it's also showing the rest of the background live. So it's turning the word Chinikov into, well, teapots, which it really means literally, but figuratively it means dummies. And so now that's happening on the fly, and I can see the rest of the book as I do it. If I go down now, this text is in Russian in front of me, but on the Google Translate app, it's turning it into English as I focus on the words. I think this is absolutely amazing. And as a person who grew up with promises about what would happen AI-wise from 1967 on, to actually see this in action is just absolutely fantastic as far as I'm concerned. I was amazed when I saw this. So that's what's going on, at least that's what's happening in the mobile web track in the DevFest of Google Developer World, and please enjoy the rest of the JavaSIG video.